Hello, world, and welcome to the grind. This is the Slimzilla and Yeti program. What's up, Jordan? How you doing today?
Not too bad, man. How about you?
I'm
We got
great.
a special guest in the
I'm
building, I
great, and
hear.
I have such a treat for you today. Literally, a treat. Um, I spent a lot of time in Tampa, and I call myself a bit of a foodie. I think I'm a chef, although it's laughable compared to my guy here. But the number one, 2 years running, number one restaurant in the whole Tampa Bay area. And I'm telling you, man, like this is, if I die, I want Ferrell making my last meal because food is unbelievable. And I'll just go ahead and introduce him. Ferrell Alvarez. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on. Hey, so obviously, number one restaurant in Tampa. You got multiple restaurants now, different things going on. You're starting to get to that point where you are just really getting up there in your profession and how talented you are. We really love to hear about what it took to get to that level and the things you had to go through when you were younger.
Yeah, good question. But I think the irony is that both of you probably know the answer to that based on your careers as well. Like anything, if you want to be good, great, or the best at anything, it takes application, 100% application all the time. And, the way I apply myself to my craft is I'm sure the way you guys did as well in your careers. And it's just, I'm all in, man. I'm up early, I go to bed late, and I stay diligent, I stay focused, I grind.
Yeah, I love it. So what about the early years? Like, where did you get your start in cooking?
Yeah. So, I was 15 years old, and I wanted my pager and my car insurance and stuff like that, So mom was we were middle class at best,
Okay.
and mom busted her ass to offer everything she possibly could, but the extracurriculars were on me. So I was like, well, I got to get a job. So 15 years old, I started washing dishes at a little place in Fort Thomas, Kentucky, which is northern Kentucky. You could literally see Cincinnati right there. Yeah. And it was called the Cutting Board. And I didn't know anything about hospitality. I just replied to an ad and I got a job, and I was making some cash and, just being a little 15-year-old punk. And, fortunately for me, the owner of that restaurant, unbeknownst to me at the time, his name was Alan Strayman. And he was a Culinary Institute of America graduate, the most prestigious culinary school we have in America.
Okay.
And he just saw that, like, I hustled. I kept my mouth shut. I kept my ears open, and I just pushed, And that was kind of the way I was raised by my mother, my father, and my stepfather. We're just come from Colombian and Italian roots, and it was old school work ethic. We'll win every time. Yeah. So that's what I did. And, within a year and a half there, considering I was 15, I accelerated pretty quickly. And he's like, damn, man, like, you should really look into this, and you should, pursue this.
Awesome.
And then it kept going. Yeah, the reality is that, I've never done anything else in my life. And since I was 15 years old, I've always worked full time. So back then, it kept me off the streets, quite frankly, and kind of changed my trajectory in a super positive way. So I then kept working there. I was going to high school, but then high school had a program like school to work kind of thing. So I would only have to go to classes for 3 periods, and then I would leave and work full time. And I was still able to graduate, and that saved me. I think I'm an intelligent dude, but I'm more about trade and like using my hands and doing things than academics. Yeah. Now I look back, and now I read and I try to, do continuing education, and I value that. But back then I didn't, and had I not have done this, I don't know how well I would have done, quite honestly, so it really put me on a solid path.
So almost like sports, you found something to latch onto that, could sort of in some ways bring you to the next level of where you wanted to be, right? You wanted that pager, you wanted the little things. Absolutely. As a kid, and then as you get older, the goals get bigger, the dreams get bigger, and you keep going.
Yeah, the application, right? The application of being in the hustle, just being there. Because like you said, academics, you can read all the books, read all the recipes, ingredients, but until you're there and you have someone of a higher level teaching you all these things, that's where you're going to learn the most things.
Yeah,
100%. A lot of parallels.
Yeah.
With a young chef, would you say that, like, what would you say to a young chef? Would you say try to go to culinary school and make that your goal, just get in a kitchen somewhere and start cooking? Or what kind of things do you say to a young person?
I do this often, right? Because now I own 4 restaurants and I have like 57 employees. I have everything from 16-year-olds working at a burger and a chicken joint all the way up to 43-year-old executive chef who runs my flagship restaurant, which is Rooster the Till.
Yep.
So, I tell that I think everybody has their own path, right? So you have to be, like Jermaine O'Neal and Kobe were able to jump right to the pros, but that's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think I look at it from a monetary perspective now, because that's very much my life. I'm way more of an entrepreneur businessman now than I am a chef, although I touch food every day. I look at economics of my company. And from that perspective, I'm like, dude, don't go to school and spend 60 to 80K on an education in culinary school when you can, man, this sounds like you're teeing me up on this, but when you can grind and you can just do it, you get out of culinary school, you have $80,000 worth of debt and you get a $13 an hour job. And if you're good, you will probably get up to 18 or a salary of maybe $1,000 a week after like 10 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time to pay off that debt. But I also feel that way about college, I don't think that's the only way. I have a very much of like a Gary Vee mentality towards college where you don't have to do it that way. But that being said, sometimes it works for people and sometimes they need that regimen and that guidance. I just don't like the debt attached to it. You can come work for somebody like me and hang in one of my best kitchen and stay there for 5 years and you will outperform a culinary student hands down, because not only are you learning, you're earning money, you're learning fiscal responsibility, you're learning how to be an adult in an adult environment where we don't play around in there. We're very much a family, but we're very focused on our craft at that level. It's not romper room stuff, so you have to really be dialed in. You've seen it, Dan, you've dined with me several times, and it's a very focused group of people, from the dishwasher all the way up to my general manager. So that kind of toolage to me is priceless.
Yeah. And I think that's what I wanted to touch on, is kind of the comparisons, because me and obviously Skuta have been in that team environment. How do you deal with a huge team that you have with the different like personalities? Are you kind of more of like a regimented like boss, or you kind of like let people flow and learn their mistakes and then kind of jump on them after that? Yeah.
Excuse me. So when I was younger, I used to be super like Gordon Ramsay-esque. Mostly because I think that like that's what especially when in my day coming up, it was a much different enviirment. Now, you do anything wrong, you're canceled. It's a very thin line now, and rightfully so. But it's I think that I'm much more soft now. I'm much more patient, but also I've empowered my people, and that's how I've been able to grow. I've learned how that now in my position, I have to work on the business and not in the business. Mm-hmm. So every restaurant is set up with a general manager, a kitchen manager, or a sous chef, or an executive chef, depending on the restaurant. And then they are empowered to handle things at a super low level. Above them, I have a director of operations. And then above them is me and my 2 partners. And I handle everything culinary. My other partner handles everything essentially numbers wise, CFO, if you will. And my other partner is kind of a general, he's kind of more silent, but he's in tech. So he helps us out with anything tech, and then also provides a lot of business oversight for us. So I think now I'm soft, man, and I'm super patient, and I like to mold them like fresh clay is what I say, because, I'll take somebody who is hardworking, super polite and humble, that doesn't know anything, and I will invest in them, because that's easier than taking somebody who knows it all and trying to teach them your way and they're stubborn. We just don't play that. You got to be super open-minded and super patient, but I'm very tranquil. There is no yelling in my company, period. If I don't talk to you in a harsh way, then anybody below me has no right to do that. And this is about as loud as I get all the time, even if it's the most hectic time of a Saturday night. Right.
And you can't really either, right? Because you have an open kitchen. So there's some dynamic to like coaching a kid up and having a person eating right in front of you. So
the fans watching.
Yeah.
For sure. And you've seen it, Dan. You're 5-7 feet away at best from guests. If they get really mad, they could probably punch you. Yeah, I mean, it's having a cool head, it's a ballet in there, we even tell these guys, you have to be so good that you don't want to bump into each other. It has to be very well orchestrated. It has to look like a show, because quite frankly, it is. Right. And, look good, cook good. It just all goes hand in hand.
Yeah. I think when I speak to successful people like yourself, the main thing, especially with employers, is like what you say is like hardworking, like willing to listen. And for me, I've always said, even playing soccer, that if you have those fundamentals, you're gonna go further than somebody else that, like you said, is well experienced or good at a sport, because they're willing to listen, they're willing to evolve. Because as you said, when you was younger, you was more harsh, and then as you evolve, you've managed to, okay, now I can step back and see and mold them into other things. And I think that's kind of like the common denominator in even sport or corporations or just entrepreneurs like yourself.
Yeah, I think, positive mindset is everything for me, man. That's what I read. That's what I practice. I live it. And it's changed my life, or put me on a better path in my latter years, and I feel really good about it. And I feel like I'm just hitting my stride, man. Yeah.
So, hey, can you talk about what you got going on a little bit with the restaurants and what the different places and what goes on there? And it's mixed, right? There's a lot of different things going on.
Yeah, for sure, man. And that's part of my growth too, So when I first opened up my first restaurant, that was December, will be 8 years. So it took me a year to build it. So I've had that for 9 years now, just about. That's called Rooster and the Till. That's in Seminole Heights, Tampa. It's about a mile north of downtown, right on the main boulevard of Florida Avenue. That's now has become my flagship, but that opened up as a 32-seat eatery. And I had no money. I was naive as hell. I had a lot of drive and a lot of vigor. And I had a following because I ran Mise en Place with my partner then. And we've been partners for damn near 20 years now. This is my best bud, Ty Rodriguez. And so I met him there at Mise en Place, which is a staple here in Tampa. They've been around for 34 years, if I get that correct, as a very high-end restaurant. I worked there for 7.5 years. Started as a cook, worked my way up all the way to CDC, which is a chef de cuisine, which essentially runs the whole restaurant for the owner/chef. Yeah. So I met Ty there. We went through our journey, opened up Rooster 9 years ago, 32 seats. We opened up like gangbusters, and we were all 3-hour waits right off the jump. And we were super blessed by that, but we like, well, we can't stop here. We have to capitalize on this. Right. So on month 8, we had stacked enough capital, because we were flat broke at that time, to assume the space that just coincidentally went vacant next door. So we gobbed it up real quick. We kept operating. We didn't do anything. And then we started building it out. Like month 11, month 14 or 15, we doubled our square footage, which is what it is now. We got 72 seats. We're 2,400 square feet. We do a chef's tasting menu. We do a regular a la carte menu. It's not fancy by any means, but if somebody's not into food, I can see how they're kind of off-put. It's definitely focused. It's creative. It's progressive. The tasting menu is very much so, in that path of focus and creativity. And that's where we've gotten a lot of accolades. I've been fortunate enough to win some awards there and get great publications. And like you said, 2 years in a row, we get #1 restaurant. But the margins on a restaurant like that are paper thin, because it takes me 16 people to operate a Saturday night at that level, because the service is elevated, the food is elevated, and that takes more hands, Right. So we learned that. And then we had an opportunity to do something. I had an idea. We saw this property on Nebraska and Osborne, which is in a very rundown neighborhood, was a very rundown neighborhood. That was about 4 years ago. We obtained that property. It was called the Nebraska Mini Mart, still is. We just resurrected the old sign that was built in the 50s. And it was a double-sided drive-through farm store. So I don't know if you guys have those in your city, but you can drive up and, you don't even get out of the car. They bring you milk or smokes or whatever. And that's what it was back in the day. And it's on 3 lots, and they form an L. It's about 1.7 acres. Mm-hmm. So we got the property, and we built onto the unit, and we used the windows like old school. We have a microphone that goes through a PA system throughout the whole entire park. We got outdoor shuffleboard, outdoor bocce ball. We got this huge bleacher, like post up and chill type of bleacher system that's like 24 foot long with subwoofers buried in it. We got custom ping pong tables, and we do outdoor vendor markets. We do yoga and CrossFit on site in the mornings. And during COVID, we pivoted to a burger and fried chicken joint, and it took off. So we were very fortunate to experience that. But those types of fast casual restaurants, with a taste of that, we realized, man, like that's where the money's at, or that's where the profit's at least,
the big margins.
Yeah. My game is not like people think, oh, you own a restaurant, man, you gotta be rich. Like, it's not that game at all. You got to really know what the hell you're doing. You got to be really good at operations and numbers, creative, and you got to retain things. But then after that, we opened up Gaito Taqueria, which is in Sparkman Wharf, which is a large park that SPP, which is a development group that comprised of Bill Gates, who owns Cascade, and Jeff Finnick, who owns brain farting now. Okay, so Jeff Finnick owns, and they formed SPP, and so now SPP is doing a very large development downtown Tampa. I think it's the second largest independently funded development in the United States at like 3.3 billion. Yeah, they're changing the whole landscape of our downtown. But in the very beginning, to activate this development, they gutted this big park on the river downtown, and they rebuilt it. And I got a little spot there, and I'm doing a taqueria. And then last January, we opened up a second location of that taqueria in another food hall in Lakeland. So yeah, we got 4 spots now. 2 is a second location.
You're killing it, man.
Forever growing. Yeah. We have to get down back to Tampa, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. And as soon as I get there, you know where I'll be at, because I'm not even playing, man. It is so good. Could you pick one of your dishes that you really love, and it's kind of cool little intricate things, and kind of describe it a little bit?
Yeah, for sure, man. We have 2 staples only at Rooster now. Only thing that we don't change. And we change the menu, I would say quarterly, we change about 30% of the menu. And then in addition to that menu, that menu is like 14 or 16 items. Mm-hmm. In addition to that menu, we run the chef's tasting menu, like I mentioned, and that's 6 courses, and that changes once every 2 months. To write that type of creative food that hits that hard is a lot of work, and you have to develop the menu, the creative process, the design process, the graphic design process, the tasting process, wine pairing process. And then my photographer has to come in, capture all collateral of those. It's a whole damn system, But the gnocchi is our longest standing dish. It's been there since we opened up Rooster. And that's a Parisian style gnocchi with some local braised short ribs from Providence cattle. We braise the short ribs, and it creates almost like a beef stock, if you will, that we put vegetables and herbs and aromatics in. We strain that out, and we turn that into, lack of a better word, like a gravy. Then we make some homemade ricotta cheese. And then separately, we take some sweet peppers and some spicy chilies, and we do a pickling on those. And we call that sweet and spicy pickled pepperonata. So at the end of it, we have our most classic dish that everybody, if you know Rooster, you know the gnocchi, and that's a Parisian style gnocchi with local braised short ribs, house-made ricotta, and sweet and spicy pickled pepperonata. And then another dish that we have that is straight fire that really hits hard, and it's been on the menu probably about 6 years out of our 8, is the cobia collar.
Yeah, baby.
So it's
it kills me.
I see the Yeti's dribbling already.
I got the what's the thing when the dog, you mentioned food, the dog started drooling. I'm over here like wiping myself down.
You got
the
napkin out. You got the napkin.
I love it. Yeah, but the cobia collar, man, that thing, that's an amazing little product. When I was touring our new seafood purveyor, this was years ago, I was switching companies. So I went to tour their space just to make sure I liked it. And I saw their guys breaking down cobia, and they were taking essentially the clavicle bone with the pectoral fin. This is, the collar of the fish, just like it is on our shoulder collar, cobia collar. And they were throwing them into these big barrels. And I was like, dude, what are you doing with those? Because, everybody wants the primo, the filet mignon of the fish. But I own my own business. I know economics, and that's not where it's at, So they say, we ship them to Miami because like the Filipinos and the Latinos, they all use them for soups and different things. I said, man, screw that. I want that. So I started buying those. So I created a dish where we take those, and it has tons of just buttery white meat all up in there. We put them in a sous vide bag with Korean soy sauce and lemongrass, and we sous vide them, which is a cooking technique, which is slow and low underwater. And then we cool them out overnight, and then they set up in there like the meat firms back up because they've cooled off. And then we dredge them in rice flour and we fry them super crispy. And then we put cilantro, fresh Thai chilies, which are pretty spicy, but we find a balance, I'd say like a 7.5 on a 1 to 10. And then we smother and cover this dish in a sauce called nuoc cham, which is a classic Vietnamese dipping sauce. If you go to any Vietnamese restaurant still and you get like that little cup of clear liquid that just tastes super acidic, that's nuoc cham. Sometimes it's nam prick, but we're splitting hairs. And that's, fish sauce, lime juice, sugar, and water. That's it. But it's just fire, man. And people eat it like fried chicken. You get all messy with it, and it's just
that sounds like my banter.
Oh, dude, it's unbelievable. We definitely got to get down there, Jordan. And I could sit here and talk to you about cooking pretty much all day. So we're going to have you on again, man, because I got a sous vide in the kitchen, and I've been throwing down with that thing lately, but nowhere near your level. So I need some more pointers.
You got it.
And before you go, one last question, because we ask all our guests this question, and because obviously me and Skuta are always having a debate. What is harder, soccer or football?
Soccer, man.
Yeah,
he was gonna go soccer. I knew.
Yeah, I think of it from like a cardio perspective, man. Like, from cardio wise, I think that they're obviously everything's so challenging in its own right, But I think the football, the impact of football, that definitely is something to talk about. But the cardio of soccer, I just had this conversation with somebody, and they're talking about because I'm into F1, so they're talking about F1. F1 the football, they're like, oh, F1 is way harder than football because, you cannot get into an F1 car and do 180 miles an hour around a turn, period. But an F1 driver might be able to make it through one play of a down, without getting killed, depending on the weight level, so.
There's always that little thing with football where it's like, well, this guy might die if he does it. But we end up coming back to that every single time. It's always so fun, but I'll give him soccer. That's all right. We need a few people to start making some decisions for us anyway. So.
Cool. Hey, pleasure as always, man. Much appreciated for coming on and sharing your wisdom for sure.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. It's great to be on here, guys. I'm super appreciative.
Appreciate
come
you.
Down to Tampa. We'll hit the restaurant and hit the links.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know. Let me know, man. I'm down.
Cool. Much appreciated, man.
All right, boys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Peace.